Feast your eyes, my brand new camera angle. Isn't it just inspirational?
Far to the east, over ranges and rivers, lies a single solitary peak. The dwarves are determined to reclaim their homeland.
Welcome everybody, hobbits and elves and dwarves and men and women. I am John from MaffmanJones Reviews, and today's featured movie is for The Hobbit. The Hobbit stars Martin Freeman, Ian McKellen, and Richard Armitage, and it basically tells the classic story, the prelude to Lord of the Rings, which is about Bilbo Baggins back in his time, 60 years before Lord of the Rings, to be specific, and he's very reserved, and he likes being in his house, doing what he likes to do, being a hobbit, when suddenly he is encountered by Gandalf. And Gandalf, along with these 13 dwarves, invite him to go on an adventure to sort out Smaug, who took over the Lonely Mountain, which was once owned by the dwarves, and the leader of the pack, Thorin Oakenshield. Bilbo Baggins, out of some curiosity and some desire for adventure, joins the quest, and thus begins the journey of Middle-earth. So this movie is directed by Peter Jackson, who directed the first 3 movies of Lord of the Rings, one of the greatest trilogies of all time. And I'm sure people were relieved by the fact that he was directing these movies, because it's a really hard thing to give it this. I mean, he basically made Lord of the Rings his bitch. Like when you think Lord of the Rings, you think of Peter Jackson and J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of the original books. So the fact that he's making these 3 movies is kind of absurd, but I'm willing to give it a chance. And now that I've seen The Hobbit, which, by the way, I got a poster for this, alongside Thorin, Gandalf, and Smeagol. This movie in general has been getting a lot of criticism, and I went into this movie knowing that, but how did I feel about it? Let's find out. The story itself is very grand and rich and filled with lore. It's fun and adventurous, but you can't help but think of Lord of the Rings when you watch this, and it's not as engaging nor as exciting as Lord of the Rings, but that's because this movie isn't about... Lord of the Rings was so serious, and it's basically like the trilogy that you can't mess with. The Hobbit is it gets serious at points, but for the most part, The Hobbit is a fun adventure. Fun and adventure. See those 2 words? Those are in Lord of the Rings, but in The Hobbit, it's more emphasized. For the most part, though, if you are intrigued and pulled into the movie by the first few scenes, you will be engaged throughout. Going into the acting, which is basically a given, I think it's pretty obvious that everybody came to play with their A-game here. Ian McKellen as Gandalf makes the triumphant return, and it's like he never left. Martin Freeman brings a lot of wit and character to Bilbo, and while I didn't think he was that interesting as Bilbo in this film specifically, he was good enough for what the film needed. My favorite, however, was Thorin, played by Richard Armitage. Thorin Oakenshield is basically the Aragorn of this trilogy, or he will be, because he's that certified badass who has the charisma and the integrity that most of the other characters in this group don't have, and he has that leadership skill. The cinematography for this movie was absolutely amazing. Peter Jackson, it is basically like his second home. Middle-earth is his second home, so he knows how to film this movie and make it very immersive. It was magical and very majestic, and the set design was pretty fantastic. You could tell there was a good mix of practical and CGI in certain parts. There's certain parts where there's too much CGI, but I can forgive that because it was magnificently stunning CGI. Now let's get into the criticisms of The Hobbit. The pacing. Critics and audiences alike have been moaning about how it takes forever to get started, how the first hour in the Shire is just downright dreadful and disorienting. Overall, for the whole 2.5 hours or more, I was thoroughly engaged. There was a couple dull moments, but not really. But in terms of pacing, the movie went by quickly. The whole part in the Shire, which is about the first hour, the whole Shire aspect, it flew for me. And I don't know if it's just because I was so immersed into the story, which is one thing also. I can forgive some of the faults because I was so swept up into the magic, into the immersion of Middle-earth, that I forgot that I was on planet Earth for over 2.5 hours, which is a testament to the filmmaking Peter Jackson. There is some really childish humor, throughout, but in the beginning when they first meet the dwarves, the childish humor can go either one of two ways for you. You could just accept it and enjoy it for what it is, or you're just gonna use it as criticism and hate on the movie for no reason. A real complaint I have, though, is that there was a lack of suspense, and it felt like some emotional weight didn't really carry into the actual characters in the film itself until the last half. There was also a lot of conveniences, and conveniences, while they are very abundant and important in The Lord of the Rings, it just felt too blatant and apparent here, and you lose grip with the actual movie. Also, there was a lack of character development between some of the dwarves. It would be really damn difficult, I understand, to give character development and memorability for all these dwarves. It would probably get very hasty if they did attempt to do that, so I understand why they left some people in the background. But for the most part, yeah, there was a lack of character development. Thorin had a great character arc and great character development. Bilbo had good character arcs. Overall, I don't understand the hate. This movie is very enjoyable and it's very fun for what it is. The sequel and the sequel after that, for the trilogy, might end up being so much better. And there are ways that Peter Jackson can improve on this movie with the next two. But for this movie itself, it's a great start to the new Hobbit trilogy. It's a lot of fun, there's a lot of great humor, there's a lot of great action, just a grand scope of Middle-earth that everybody who enjoys these movies loves. If you don't like Lord of the Rings, you probably won't like this movie either. That's just the way it is, though. It's a good setup for the new generation of children who are getting introduced to Lord of the Rings. Even though it has its flaws, this movie is really good. And it may overstay its welcome by a scene or two. And Radagast the Brown, by the way, I forgot to mention, the brown wizard who has, he's very naturistic. He wasn't that annoying in my opinion, but that's just me. I don't know, everybody's saying he's like the Jar Jar Binks of Lord of the Rings. Shut up, that's a stupid comparison. He's nothing like Jar Jar Binks. But, I'm gonna get off on a rant now. One thing for sure, I cannot wait for next winter. Oh my god, I want to see Schmog so bad. I can't wait. Hobbit is going to get 4 out of 5 stars. If you plan to see The Hobbit or have already seen it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Please subscribe to my channel and like my Facebook and Twitter accounts on the channel itself. I'm John from MaffmanJones Reviews. I am Gandalf the Grey. I will see you next time.
Home is now behind you. The world is ahead.